All right, it's 6:30. We're going to go ahead and start our meeting. We're going to call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. And if you would please stand, we'll have our pledge led by Cheyenne. Pastor.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you bow your heads, we'll have the invocation by Linda. Next one.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for everyone gathered here today that's concerned about our school and our students. Guide and direct us as we try to do what's best for our students and our community. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Linda.
And we'll have our mission read by Rob Irwin tonight.
Mission of GISD. The mission of the Gatesville ISD, a portal to limitless possibilities, is to empower our students to be life-ready, knowledgeable seekers and problem solvers by instilling leadership, innovation, integrity, critical thinking, and service through challenging and engaging learning experiences facilitated by passionate teachers and supported by caring parents and community members.
Thank you.
Wow.
And we have our student spotlight. Mr. Smith?
Yes. All right. So, trying to select just one student is difficult. We have so many fine students at the intermediate school across the district. But, come on up here, Caitlin. You guys stand here. But I began to ask the teachers and just ask around and say, if we had to select one student who represents what we want to see out of our student body, somebody who works hard, comes to school each day, takes care of business. There's one name that continued to come back at us, and teachers continue to offer up one name, and that is Caitlin Sanchez. And so to go over some of the things that the teachers say about Caitlin, she is in choir. She's involved in choir as one of her activities at school. But caring individual, and I'm just paraphrasing some of what the teacher said, caring individual, always has a smile on her face, which she does, and she has a great smile. Always willing to help her classmates, always willing to go on a limb and help somebody who may need assistance in class. Always willing to step out on the limb and be a friend to somebody with a go-get-em attitude. The teachers just could not say enough wonderful things about Caitlin Sanchez. So I just felt it important to recognize her for being no more than just who she is, which is just a great young lady and a great student and somebody that we want to recognize as our Student of the Month at Gatesville Intermediate.
Well, Caitlin, on your certificate, I put willingness to help others, because the more I read about you, the more everyone kept saying she helps people, she helps people. So we've got a certificate for you. Now we want to take your picture. So don't be too embarrassed. We're going to stand right there with you.
You want to stand in the front up here? No.
Change the venue.
They want to, Ryan wants to see if we can get in front of the G here. So that way some of those spaces aren't cut off when we print the photo. The light show.
I'll tell my Verity, he makes me look short.
Ready? 2. You almost got it in the paper though.
Good job.
You held it for another second.
Good job.
She worked out. I'm sorry.
Sir. I'm gonna sit down there.
I'm willing to share.
Sorry.
It wasn't a waste.
And next we have our teacher spotlight from junior high. Venables.
Yes,
And
good evening. I would like to highlight one of our teachers. It's always fun to do this, to honor a teacher. This is Megan Lynch, and Megan has been on our campus for how many years?
This is my 11th year.
11th year. And she wears many, many hats on our campus. She started out as a history teacher and coach, and now she teaches college and careers, which is an important class getting our kids ready for high school for our endorsements. She actually, when we started the class, she has taught it from its inception. She has made the class what it is. She kind of brainstormed with Barrett and Shane, and they kind of came up with what they wanted it to be that would work out best for our kids. She takes kids back and forth to the high school. They sit in on the CTE classes and observe, and she shows them what those things look like. Gets their mind going. They do research on different jobs. They do research on colleges. How much money would you make? She also goes around the community and gets speakers to come in from these different jobs to come in and actually talk to the kids and share with them what they do, what they did to get there, and kind of how that came to be. Another thing Megan does is she's our UIL coordinator for our campus. And it's a pretty taxing job during UIL season, but even more taxing this year was that we had the competition on our campus. So we had over 500 kids from 6 different districts at our campus, and Megan coordinated that. She worked with the teachers, she got the coaches together, she coordinated with the different districts to get everybody there. It was very organized. We had many compliments on how smoothly everything went, and so that was our inaugural UIL academic meeting. It went very well, and that was thanks to Megan and her hard work. But the thing I really want to highlight Megan for is her connection with kids. At the first of the year, we tell teachers, make relationships with your kids, make those connections. If you will make a relationship and get to know your kids, you will have very few discipline problems. Your kids will respect you, and they will do anything you need them to do, and you'll have a very great class. And this is the thing Megan does best, is form relationships with her students. She gets to know them. She can tell you everything about them. And then they'll go to her with their problems too, which is not a bad thing, because some of the kids can get help by sharing some things with Megan. But she has great relationships. I think she's written maybe 1 discipline referral or 2 the whole year. So she takes care of her business by making relationships and connections with her kids. And so when I talk to teachers about this at the beginning of the year, it's Megan I think about, because she's like the poster child for making great relationships with your kids. So I just wanted to spotlight you tonight and tell you we're very proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you get a prize.
Yes, you get a G.
Made by our welding department.
We visit the welding department.
Yes, you probably
I
seen
know
these
them all.
things.
I know them all. Yes, thank you, thank you.
Great job.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, you need to stand by her then. I did. Had a good Sunday school teacher, a great band director. Yes.
You good?
Yeah, they took a lot of
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, thank you.
Major obstruction right there.
Okay. I thought you were about to sit there. Sorry.
Cheyenne, that's the Charles Lee Morning
Yeah.
I want to get it.
That's what you drop, so you get real close.
Next on the agenda is public comments. Do we have?
Thank you.
anybody?
Yes.
You can tell like.
We have one.
We could go.
And before Ms. Boyd comes up, I do need to read this. Any person wishing to address the board during the period reserved for public comment at a board meeting must sign up to be heard in accordance with District Policy BED Local. Each participant will be limited to 5 minutes to make comments to the board. Any group of 5 or more persons must appoint one person to present the group's views to the board. The board is not permitted to discuss or act upon any issues that are not posted on the agenda for tonight's meeting. This comment period is not intended for the presentation of complaints. The board has adopted complaint policies that are designed to secure at the lowest possible administrative level a prompt and equitable resolution of complaints and concerns. Each of these processes provides that if a resolution cannot be achieved administratively, the person may appeal the administrative decision to the board as a properly posted agenda item. For further information on these policies, contact the superintendent of schools at 254-865-7251. So, Ms. Boyd? Timer, just 1 minute, please. Let me
Okay.
get my phone here. Will you time it? Okay. You have 5 minutes.
Okay. Good evening, my name is Shelley Boyd, and I first want to thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm not a public speaker, so I ask for your forgiveness in advance if anything nerve related happens. It's by God's grace that I'm even here in the beginning. The reason I'm here is not to run down anybody's name, and it's not to ruin anybody's career in the least. I am pursuing an issue in the defense of an innocent team of girls, and hopefully reveal the person or persons that are guilty of what I know is a very punishable act. I have no intentions of discussing anything other than fact. I will not base it, I mean, nothing I say is of my opinion or based on assumptions. Although several people are well deserving of being publicly called out, I am of the belief that two wrongs don't make a right. So if, when I'm done, you wish to know specific names, then feel free to call me. I've made my contact information well known. The issue that I'd like to address, again, is nothing more than a team's effort to show support for who they felt was the best candidate for the head coach position of the girls basketball team. The varsity team came together in agreement and was ultimately, they ultimately signed a letter written to Kyle Cooper, making their feelings very clear. It was clear that their opinion was that the existing coach, junior varsity coach, Chad Baker, was the most logical and most deserving for the position. Making clear they all have a huge and unbelievable respect for this man. It's well deserved anyway. Below the girl's signature on this letter, it was evident that copies of this letter would also be sent to 3 other recipients besides Coach Cooper. Copies were put into stamped envelopes and also sent to Mr. Yancey Sanderson, Mr. Barrett Pollard, and finally the 4th and final letter was addressed to the Gatesville ISD School Board. Coach Cooper and Mr. Sanderson's letters mailed to 205 South Lovers Lane at the high school, and the letters addressed to Mr. Pollard and the school board were both mailed to 311, which is this building here. The letter from the team was written on February 6th and mailed February 8th, and on February 13th I chose to write a letter to the same recipients from a parent's point of view. It was an attempt to show support for Chad Baker, and I will say that in that letter of mine to Kyle Cooper, I did ask that the decision not be based on anything political. My request was based on numerous occasions where it was very obvious that politics were in play. On April 11th, my daughter Josie came to me clearly upset, and she told me that a decision had been made for their new coach, but it was not Coach Baker. She revealed that she learned this from an ongoing group text message with her teammates. My huge problem with this is because at this point, Chad Baker had not even been notified. I called the mother of the girl who posted this, and my hunch was correct, and who I thought was at fault for spreading the news. This individual should be reprimanded, as it was absolutely not their right to spread such news. It had nothing to do with them. Now to the main issue that I wish to discuss. It was by sheer accident that I found out that neither the letter from the team nor the letter from myself ever made it to the hands of the school board. Upon further investigation, I was able to speak with Mr. Pollard, and he in fact did receive his letters. And it left a huge question mark as to why, because they were, is my time up?
No.
Okay. And I don't think that that is ironic at all. My daughter said it best when she told me that whomever was responsible for intercepting and withholding these letters from the school board would have expressed their feelings the very same way if they would have just slapped them in the face. It was evident that their heartfelt feelings were dismissed and ignored. It does make me wonder that if, in fact, the school board did get this information,
Ms. Boyd, you just ran out of time.
Okay, that's,
But thank you for coming.
thank y'all very much.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. We're moving on to item 7, consent agenda. Is there any discussion about the consent agenda?
Is this it?
Pardon?
Is the vital signs, what does it fall under?
It's under consent agenda.
I have a concern still in the vital
Well, wait a minute.
signs on attendance.
Okay, yeah, it is.
Whatever we're doing is not working.
Why?
Well, we base our budget on 95.5. And there are, I think, 3, maybe 4 grades in the whole district, which accounts for 15. That's up to 95.5. And it goes as low as about 90%. If I get on the right spot. Yeah. 93.76, 93.1, 92.4, 94.03 in the high school. We need to address this. And I think if you have any employee that would pay for their salary many times over, we need an attendance officer and somebody that will contact these parents and these kids and get them to school. If not, we need to start filing charges. And I said this before, for every percentage that you can raise this, it equates to about $200,000. We tried offering money, incentives to get them there, and maybe you start hitting them in the pocketbook with the JP, it might get their attention. But we're gonna have to do something. That's too much money that's being just not followed up on.
Would you want to have that as
That
an
would be a good
agenda item
idea.
again?
Two half-day employees would be great.
To have to, you want to bring this back up as an agenda item?
If we need to,
Okay.
whatever we need to do, but we have got to address this attendance.
So when we ask for future agenda items at the end of the
That'll be
meeting?
fine.
Okay, you'll bring that up.
Yes,
Any more
ma'am.
discussion on the on the consent agenda? Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. All those in favor? Oh, wait, any more discussion? Excuse me, do it right here.
I would like to say, I share Mr. Alderson's concerns on the attendance as well, as I've expressed to you before too, so, yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? All those in favor of passing the consent agenda, raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're moving on to information items. High school renovation, schematic design.
Okay, we're happy tonight that Mary O'Brien is here with us, our main architect who's been working diligently on some schematics for the high school renovation, and we have the Masonics Eddie and Ed Senior here with us, our construction support. And so, Mary, I'm going to turn this over to you
Okay.
to present. And do you need a clicker?
Sure, I'll take it. Do you want to just change over to the PowerPoint? Okay. Well, thank you for having me again. So yeah, tonight we wanted to present what we've been working on so far for the high school. This is the schematic design presentation. So a little bit of the definition of what to expect with the schematic design. So at this point, we've thoroughly developed a floor plan as well as the program for the addition and renovation of the high school, as well as the exterior of the building, just what it's going to look like. So tonight I'm going to present lots of renderings and the floor plan and a schedule for what to expect coming down the road. After this, we would also, not tonight, but the next meeting, present the design development, which is more looking on the interior of the building. We have some images tonight of some of the interiors, but we'll go into further detail with that presentation. So I'm just going to jump right in. Okay, so working through the program, this is for the new construction of what we're looking at, as well as the renovation. And in your booklets, all of this information is also in your booklets, but for the presentation. So the full administration suite, media center, classroom spaces, food service, including cafeteria and kitchen, and then support spaces, which is just your custodian rooms and IDF rooms and those kind of spaces. So the floor plan will be a lot more clear. But as we move through this development, there is a multi-step process that we take. A lot of it beginning with a simple bubble diagram and thinking about the spatial relationships. And working with Dr. Pollard and the district, we've gone through several iterations of this plan already, but I think we landed at what everyone is hoping to consider a successful plan that meets all of your needs, as well as students and staff, and I think will end up being a really great project in the end. Okay, so the floor plan. We are looking at adding, for new construction, about 56,000 square feet, which you can see in the orange. And then the green spaces, these are renovation. Those spaces are going to be completely overhauled and changing program entirely. And then the purple, those are items that include a new electrical room and MDF room, which is moving the fiber line. And those two things would have to be done prior to construction, just so we're not taking the existing building offline. But moving, I'm going to just kind of stand over here and walk through it because it's easier. Okay, so for the new front entry, that is that beginning rendering that we did see. So we are creating a new security vestibule in this, in the existing library, yeah. And then the existing library will become the new administration suite. And I can go into further detail of the actual breakdown of these floor plans if you wanted to. We have the nurses clinic across the security vestibule, your reception, and then offices in the back. So everything, we know school security is a big concern, as it well should be. So we are going to take all the appropriate procedures, and it will be a secure vestibule. So you have to actually check in, give your credentials before you're allowed into the rest of the school. We have an enclosed corridor to the CTE building, and then there is a grade change between this lower portion and this higher portion. This front leg, which is on the west side of the building, is stained, and this is a little faded on the projector, but your printouts have a little more clear. New classrooms, media center here, cafeteria, kitchen, the service yard, and then both the media center and the, can you all see too? sorry, the media center and the cafeteria both spill out into an outdoor courtyard that would be secure as well. I'm going to move down here. More classroom space, and then the existing cafeteria and kitchen would also be renovated into additional classrooms. Down this portion of the building, so we do have a direct connection between the new entry and the existing technology building on the east side. So you could actually stand here and monitor all of the different hallways from one point. So that was an added point of security where you can easily see what's happening in the school. These are the new science labs, classroom and lab combos, as well as other additional classrooms. So we are coming back with 19 new standard classrooms, and then in the program, and 4 science lab classroom combos. And so netting, we are netting, tell me again, how many extra?
6.
6. So we're getting an additional 6 classrooms, which would account for future growth.
And that includes moving art and ISS into the building.
So these are some of the renderings of what we are exploring for the look of the new building. So what you're looking at is that back view. This would be the new kitchen with the service yard, but all of this would be really a good promenade and entry into that courtyard space. We would have this be secure, but that courtyard would be a covered space, so the kids or teachers could eat out there, or even have if you wanted to have a class outside, you could do that. But probably we're envisioning a hardscape with a hard covering over you to protect from the elements. This is an additional new entrance to that back side. So this is another classroom wing, and then this bar is the science. So we would have high windows to not impede the casework that goes into those rooms, because you need a lot of storage and tables. And so we could still have a higher window. And then all of this portion are the classrooms with another entry into that point. So you have multiple new entry points into the building, and then that is the existing technology building. This is another view of the covered courtyard. And if you have any questions, please let me know. And then on the right, again, a look into that promenade down to the courtyard. The left image is the entry. So it is looking at the existing entry, but we are trying to do some renovation to it for the curb appeal aspect. And also we're going to be adding some additional windows into that existing library space, because those are offices, and just to bring in some natural light into those spaces. On the right, this is the space in between the library. So behind this, you have a hallway connection, and then the library is beyond that. But this is that CTE courtyard. So again, we're trying to develop that space so it can be an active learning additional environment. These are some previews for the interior. On the left is the media center and what we are envisioning for this space. So there are high volumes within the media center and the cafeteria as well. That brings in a lot of really great north natural light. So north is the best direction to have a window, because you get a lot of the really great light, but you don't get any hot spots or glare, so it doesn't impede technology at all. You don't even need blinds on that window, because you're never going to get the direct sun, so just based on the movement of the sun. So all of those high windows on the left, those are all facing north. And then the yellow, those are acoustic panels against the wall, so we're taking in acoustics into consideration, because it is a library, we want to be able to control that. On the right, this image is looking down the hallway, and then the 2 doors that you see are doors into the library. These could be your main doors. We also have an additional entrance, but we also need those just for egress and exiting purposes. And then the window on the right is looking out into that CTU courtyard. This is the view on the left going down the hallway. So you're standing on the library portion and looking south down the hall. So you do get that connection down that main corridor. We're trying to bring in a lot of the gold and the Gatesville, really the brand of Gatesville and the school spirit and the school colors. The right is an image of the cafeteria as well. So that north high window is repeating into the cafeteria space. So you get this really great volume and just a nice feel into that space, as well as the acoustic panels on both sides. Lots of different seating within the cafeteria. We could do bar stools, we can do regular cafeteria tables, more your bistro tables. And then the view in the back of that image is the serving line as well. And some of those we're still developing the design of it, but these are where we are today. As far as the schedule is concerned, so the line you see, that's today. So we are looking at the end of schematic design, and through schematic design we're simultaneously moving into design development. It just naturally happens, they kind of bleed into each other. Design development is the next step, and then naturally design development then bleeds into construction documents. And we, after today, hopefully everyone likes the design and we can approve it. And then I'm really going to get our consultants kicked off, including civil and MEP and structural, and then it's really going to start to come to life and become a building. So with the mention of the possible bond in November, we are probably going to have we're planning on having our construction documents done by the end of October so that we can have a really good firm cost estimate by Masonic before the bond election happens. And then with the passage of the bond, cross your fingers, then we would go out for bid for documents, or for the project itself, for subcontractors, and then start construction in January 2020. With the phasing of the high school, we do need 2 summers to go through, so it is important to think about life may be a little chaotic for about 18 months, 2 summers, just shifting kids around and getting portables and things like that just during the phase of construction. And then move-in will be ready for the fall of 2021. So, and that's it. And yeah, Eddie with Masonic is here if you have questions on the cost of it.
Now is it our turn for questions?
Yeah, anytime.
2 questions.
Sure.
What happened to our road continuing around the back of the technology building?
So
I thought we were supposed to have a full drive around.
I thought the same.
So we didn't do the full drive around just to save on the cost of pavement. We do have a continuous fire loop, so they, if a fire were to occur, the fire department would be able to access all points of the building, but it would be 2 entrances. We're still in design, and if that's something you want to bring back and look at, we can certainly
Second part of my question is bad, and you're not responsible for it.
Oh.
We're only $7 million over budget, what we started talking about, and I think that was, we were being misled by a previous person. A $12.5 million to do this, which I think most of us knew that wasn't feasible. But we're at 19 million now. That's quite an increase, quite a shock, I think, to me it was. And I want, Gail, I want that new cafeteria, do not get me wrong. I'm kind of tight, I guess you'd say, on money. So I'm just concerned, 12 and a half went to 19 and a half, $7 million. It's not your fault, I think we were misled by.
Was that before I know
Our
we saw the
previous.
kitchen, but that was before we decided to change the kitchen too.
I think that kitchen was talked about in the beginning also.
Well, yeah, it wasn't
The
mentioned.
kitchen was taken out to try to save some money. Then when we went on the tour with Gail, we saw
The need.
the shambles of our cafeteria and how hard it is to deal with. So I know you can't cut it back and save me $7 million, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty blown away by the increase, and it's a nice looking building, what you designed. It's a little more than I expected.
I have a question about security.
Yes.
Off of the back, like if you're having class out there or students are out there, how do they enter? Are they?
We haven't gotten into exactly the technical, like how the students are gonna enter the school, but that is definitely something that the district will really have the decision on, and we can, if it's a card keyed access, or that's really up to you all how you wanna give that access to the students. So, but we would have some sort of, like a nice fence or gate to be sure it is secure, and where it could be electronic if you wanted to. So there's quite a few ways of being able to secure that. It's really just working together as the design team on how we want to accomplish that.
And to defend myself to the employees of GISD, I want this, but I got all the taxpayers behind me who have got an answer to it. I know we need this, and it's good. But I just gotta ask these questions to represent the taxpayers. But I wanna get y'all what we need, Gail. I know you need it. So don't be mad at me for
Well,
questions.
I'll add a little bit to that though, and I can't speak for what the information that you guys were given entirely, but from when we were really trying to crunch numbers and trying to make this work within the allowable money you guys had, less a bond, we cut the cafeteria out, we cut square footage out, we tried to cut the old library renovation out. We were down to 12.27 million from a construction cost. That's not soft costs included.
Yeah.
And that's the best that we were able to do based on, and that was just cutting things that you guys certainly needed.
It's not y'all's fault.
But I just wanted to let you
Cost of
know,
building.
we were still there.
Cost of building is just extremely high. Things are going up, and I understand that. I'm just backing this up to, I feel like we didn't have enough information in the beginning to base a figure on. I was skeptical of 12.5 million to do what was being told, but you're listening to who's leading us, and I knew it was wrong. But I knew y'all would figure it out. But I just want to be heard that I am aware, that to the taxpayer and to the school people, I know we need it. It's just a matter of paying for it.
Now, I'm not a builder, but to me, when you start building these tall ceilings and roofs, the higher you go, the more it costs. For your layout, do you need that much height, like in the library and the cafeteria and et cetera, et cetera? Why do they have to be so high?
So that is a design element, yes. It is higher largely because just the size of the room to get the scale to feel appropriate. I think it should be a taller volume, again, to get the light into that space. And we have actually run some scenarios and looking at the cost of things. And even if we did more of a flat roof, which I actually brought a rendering of, if you wanted to see it. the cost doesn't really come down enough to warrant a big change like that. So what I'm saying is, if you like the design, the cost isn't that much more significant to go with that.
And the cost estimate is based upon everything that's in her renderings currently, with the tall ceilings, the sawtooth roof look, and all that as it stands right now.
It does just totally change the feel of the space. And
What
if you
kind of
wanted to
roof
see
is on the sawtooth?
that would probably be a standing seam metal roof.
And then the rest of it is,
It's a pitched roof.
Yes.
what's the surrounding? Is it gravel or like we?
No,
I don't know what y'all are using now.
we
exactly.
talked about using a PVC roof. So everything would have a positive slope. So the minimum you can do is a 1/4 inch a foot slope. So everything would drain appropriately. We would have all the appropriate crickets. We're planning on having internal roof drains, not the downspouts and scuppers just hanging off the side of the buildings, any of that.
We
So
got the internal roof drain right now, that's a problem.
I don't think that bucket is the solution you're looking for.
Our waterfall.
It's not a bucket, it's a big.
It's
The
a trash
trough.
can.
Okay,
Yeah.
the trough.
Where are the lockers located? Student lockers.
We actually don't have lockers currently in the plan, so
What are we gonna do?
if we need to address lockers, we can add them.
We haven't gotten to that micro of a level yet in my book. I mean, we're
Yeah.
still looking at spaces and rooms, and it's still a very 30,000-foot bird's eye view. I mean, we haven't gotten into those little particulars yet.
When I walked the high school with Yancey, and correct me if I'm wrong, you mentioned a lot of the students don't even use lockers anymore.
No, we've decreased our number of lockers significantly over the last 3 or 4 years.
Backpacks.
To the point where they're taking them out, correct?
We have distributed several across the district.
Yeah. So I think with the remaining corridor space with lockers, if a student wants a locker, and correct me if I'm wrong, then they can ask for one and be issued a locker. But in the new construction space, we were not planning on putting lockers in. And that's a common trend we're seeing across every project we're doing. Nobody's using lockers
And we
anymore
did-
because it is a security concern.
We did put a wall in on the library, right?
Yes, we did. So the library is completely enclosed now, which will help, let me go back, which will help for sound. So this is a view of the library. And then there's a actual wall separating the library and cafeteria. There's doors where you could connect them, just, swinging doors. But it is separate spaces entirely. And what you're looking at is the circulation desk in the center. We have some spaces for soft seating, more like your couches and that sort of thing. And then the bookcases along the left wall, and then stacks. And then in the further back where you see the G on the left, that's a TV, a large TV, where we have enough table and chairs for a full class to go in there. So a minimum of 24 chairs in that space. And then on the right, we were thinking of trying to do some sort of graphic. We can do a vinyl wall graphic. You can really print on anything today. A vinyl wall graphic is really easy. We were thinking maybe some of the history of Gatesville. I did some research before we came, and just looking at that, or just highlighting alumni or anything really. So
On a positive note, I like the big fan.
oh, good.
I'm a big fan of big fans.
Good. We're
I have
not
a
going to call
question.
it what it's really.
On the, how much of an increase is it on your HVAC for, I know all that stuff is figured on cubic feet, is that correct? And you add a tremendous amount of cubic feet that's with the high ceilings and.
Well, we don't have our MEP model in yet. That really is in the design development phase, but we were thinking we would probably bring in all of our HVAC more in line with this lower level. So we would have vents coming in here, so you're cooling down. You're not really cooling that higher volume space because there's really no need to. Nobody's occupying that space, so you don't really need to condition it.
That
Well,
works.
all of your
You
air
can-
would be going
You can
down.
put the air down
Mhm.
and cool a room.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
But
see
if
that
you-
a lot.
Old
from
school, it was
construction
the other way.
standpoint.
You
If you
should
put
go
hot
air
air
out.
down, it goes up.
What'd you
That
say?
high room.
I would just say,
full of
it's
hot
a
air,
common
the
design
fans
practice
work
that we
there.
see whenever there's
Right.
a
Take the
ceiling in a
fans off.
space. They'll intentionally set the ductwork at a specific elevation, you know, so many feet above where a person's actually standing, specifically so that you're cooling that area that they're occupying, and you're not concerned with what Mary was talking about, of the extra 8 to 10 feet that could be above.
And the height of those, the pitched roof in this aspect was to get above the adjacent roofs. Just so you can bring a wall up and flash correctly, because you need a certain height of flashing before your window, and then enough height of window. And then that, all of that was really determined on adjacent roofs.
So there will be no flat roofs on the.
There's no true, anymore in construction, there should never be a true flat roof. All of your steel is sloped. So your structure is sloped, and then we add the actual roofing membrane on top of your structure.
That's good to know.
But-
What about your glass? I'm
Mhm.
concerned, you know, we've been concerned here about an active shooter or whatever, or even kids getting knocked into those panes of glass.
If an active shooter scenario happens, there are certain products out there. There's one is called Guardian Glass that can help. It's not bullet resistant, but it is more impact resistant if somebody was taking a baseball bat or something to it, or trying to, bash out a pane of glass to open a door or something like that. It is significantly more expensive.
Fell into it or was pushed into it or whatever you're putting in there, they're not gonna go on through the pane.
I mean, I don't know
It's
how
supposed to
rowdy
be
your,
safety.
Well, yes.
so-
I don't know how rowdy your kids are getting.
Everything's a
There are
safety.
glasses
Yeah.
available that'll take care of that, but they're considerably more expensive.
Well,
If you wanted, like, if somebody's gonna, it's really like a film that goes on the glasses that helps, like your windshield, if something gets broken, it doesn't shatter the entire pane of glass. It's gonna break it, but you're not gonna let it fall.
But the glass
into
that y'all
space.
use there won't, I'm gonna use the word splinter, long.
Oh, no, no,
It breaks
no.
up in fine pieces.
No,
Correct.
yeah, everything is
Has
tempered.
has to be for.
Everything is tempered.
Just like
There's
a
no more
vehicle
plate
window.
glass.
windshield.
Yeah, like a windshield or side window on a car, yeah.
And even in these spaces, especially around the library, we were thinking of using a double pane glass just for sound reasons. So on an interior, you don't really need to for, energy efficiency, but for the sound, it would just help.
so it'd be a double pane like the, what they call it, insulated windows,
Exactly.
winterize or hold in the heater
Exactly.
cold.
Back to the roof, what's the year expectancy on that? The flat part, or slightly sloping flat?
What would you say if PVC?
I mean, a lot of times, we see very commonly, it's either 15 or 20 years are specified, but, I mean, that's something that, you pay a little bit more for the longer warranty, naturally, but it's very common, we see 15-year warranties specified, sometimes it's 20. They're attainable at 20, let's put it that way.
And is that realistic? Will they have that lifetime?
It's a product warranty more than anything.
It's like a shingles, it
And
depends
of
on how
course,
many hailstorms you
Yeah.
get on.
Yeah.
Roofs fail primarily just due to workmanship issues.
Right.
But as Eddie was pointing out, a 20-year NDL is what they call a no dollar limit. That is a good roof warranty. And that's what I would be recommending for you guys to have. The single-ply PVC roofs are extremely popular. We install those on public education facilities and higher education facilities at Baylor University. They're a very popular roof. And the metal roofs are great, standing seam roofs, and they add color. So there's some aesthetic features that you get by adding metal panels on the roof instead of everything being dead flat. But I believe the majority of your roof is
Yeah, it's gonna be
going to be single ply.
Yeah.
So is that a 20-year we figured, in our figure that y'all are
Yes.
talking 20?
Yeah. Okay.
One other thing to know, all of the HVAC is gonna be rooftop units, so everything will be off the ground and on the roof as well, so. you
So
won't
if a
have all the
person has to get up there and
condensers
work on a unit walking on that 20-year roof, what does that do to it?
They put a wear pad
Yeah.
around the air conditioning equipment. Sometimes there's also a precast cement walkway paver on top of that. But usually there's what we call a wear pad around the perimeter of that unit, so you take that cover off to service it, and it's not gonna damage the roof.
Yeah,
What about
typically-
getting to it though?
That's in the
Yeah,
walkway. That's
typically,
where the
so
walkway pavers come in.
We're gonna have a
Okay.
roof hatch in the roof, and then from that, you'll have a pathway you can follow and service the entire unit.
Is there gonna
It's
be a
the
hot
bigger-
water heater on the roof? We have one now, right, on the other one? We don't want a hot water heater on the roof,
No.
unless it's a solar powered.
Unless it's
You
a
don't
science
want those
experiment or something.
We can
I'm
assure you
done,
there
but
won't
we
be a
have
water
one.
heater
We have
up on the
one.
roof.
We have one that just went out
On a very new building.
on a very new building with a fire, right? Back me up, Pollard, don't let
Yes.
me hang it.
Yes. I'm gonna plead the fifth, no.
On the
That's
court,
right.
on the courtyards.
Yes.
And I'm looking, okay, let's go to the one off of the cafeteria and the library there to begin with. And I want to ask you about the CTE also. How is it secured from, can it be accessed from the outside?
Yes, and I think you had asked that question too. Yeah, so in this,
No, but what I'm saying is it going to be secured in some manner? I know it's covered. Is there a gate? I know you said something about gated entrance.
yeah,
Picture on the left.
so
Yeah,
on the
got
left,
that.
we were thinking of having, especially in that area, a nicer, maybe a wrought iron fence or something a little, nicer than just a chain link fence. But where we would have a gate, it could be a sliding gate where to have a bigger opening or a simple man gate.
My question goes to, one of our primary concerns has been securing the building. That's why we're encompassing taking in the tech building, which has been a nightmare back there for years at school. If we're going to leave that wide open, it can be secured, but what I'm seeing right now is open. I mean,
What we're showing is a sliding gate that can open. You can maybe open it before and after school, so the kids can freely come in and out, and then as soon as the bell rings, you can shut that gate. All of that, it could be automated if you wanted. We could add card access
you talked
hardware.
about card access, right? Okay, then the CTE courtyard, I don't see anything on here about as far as securing that. Would it be the same situation though?
Let me skip it. So on this one, we currently don't have a gate. Part of our fire loop does extend back into that drive
Okay.
some. Not all of the way though.
Mhm.
And then we've talked about securing it, and that's certainly something we can add.
And I'm noting
Yeah.
there's not an entrance in that area as there is in the primary courtyard,
Correct.
which is a different.
Well,
setting,
and
so
this,
to speak.
we are planning on having the drive, big enough where you could back a pickup truck into the CTE and load and unload materials if you need
Sure.
to, and get in and out really easily and quickly. So with that, the gate, we could certainly do a gate, and that would not be an issue at all.
So
I
if
would
there were-
probably do it maybe a little more economical than a fancy wrought iron gate. Where
So
the
a
primary-
gate right down there to let trucks in would
Right.
cover the
Well,
courtyard.
that may be something we need to look at,
Yeah.
because we might have some different thoughts on what we want to do with that, what we need to do with that area.
And I'm all about having a workspace, like maybe a makerspace kind of thing or something along those lines. I'm great with that. Just concerned about student security.
Yes, yes. And that is something we're always looking at as well, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Question on the,
Sure.
how do I explain it? Here.
Okay.
This area right here, this is the auto mechanic shop, I'm
Yes.
assuming. This distance here, have we made this smaller?
Because we are angling it and it's not just extending straight, it is a little smaller. But we do have, so a typical lane is, well, about 12 feet for a single car is a comfortable distance, and we have more than that there.
Coming out of that door, will a car be able to make that corner? There's a door right here.
I would need to draw it, but yes, I would.
And you can get in the auto mechanics because you have one on the north side.
You can get in it, but a lot of that, that's a drive-through shop.
You know, what it's gonna cut off is your welding and your building trades.
Well, actually, it's wider as you get down to them, but auto mechanics is a drive-through design. So, might be something to remember there.
Okay, that's good to know. I didn't know that before.
Yeah, you enter on this end and come out over here.
Okay.
Or you can back out, but the theory was they're kind of slanted and you go through.
Okay, that's good to know.
What other questions, comments?
Give me time, I'll think of something.
Yes. Well, and that brings us to the point that it's a lot to take in the first time you see it. And, you know, we've vetted it through the teachers. Dr. Sanderson spent a day with the teachers and they all came and looked. And other than some just minor things, they were very receptive to it. The administration's had a lot more time than you guys have had to look at it. And so it's a lot to take in. And so that's why this is just information item. It's just tonight to look at it. I must say Mary's extremely patient with us and very receptive to everything we've asked her to change. She does it. And she'll plead her case. Sometimes why it might be better to do it this way, but then if we say, well, go ahead and change it, she does it. And Ed and Eddie have also been very supportive, have been there side by side through the whole thing, and we appreciate you guys too. And so, like you guys have mentioned, the security, the safety, the horrible, huge, gaping hole in the ceiling. You know, those things that everybody agrees, the kitchen, we've got to do something to address it. You know, we've just got to keep working slowly through it and come up with the best solution. So we don't want to rush, that's the main thing. And we'll just take it one step at a time. So.
Do you like the design? Just overall?
I like the design. Everybody's gonna hate me for this. It's a little fancier than I thought it would be. You know, I think if you'll remember my words, Taj Mahal. It's not quite a Taj Mahal, but it's pretty nice.
Stuck
and it'll look
with me.
good.
Don't worry, that is stuck with me, and
It'll look good. I know, but I'm just thinking about the money and the taxpayer. You know, we're hung in between. Taxpayer, all the people behind us out in the world, and there's the people that we want to make happy too, our employees. We want a nice facility, but we don't want to be overburdened with. But we're gonna be, I'm sure. I mean, it's what it's gonna be. But I want the taxpayer to know that I ask questions.
Yeah.
But I'm not just spending their money freely. I'm gonna get beat up anyway, but.
I will say your statement has stayed with me throughout this entire design process. And
You sure?
yes. No, trust me. If you saw some of the, I love my team and they're very talented, but there was definitely some reeling back in. But we're trying to be very respectful of the existing building as well and blend it. Obviously you want a new building, you know, with new construction and new amenities, but we're trying to make the design where it's not an obvious, here's where the old is and here's where the new is, and they blend very nicely and complement each other. So that was our goal.
Will any of the new construction drain off onto the old original roofs?
No. And in fact, all of the, within the floor plan, anywhere we're butting new construction up against existing, we're gonna have 2-hour firewalls. So there's a lot. So we've already met with the city and they're not making us sprinkle the existing part of the building, but all of the new building will have fire suppression systems. So with that, we will have 2-hour firewall ratings separating the two. So by code, we have to have, if this is your existing exterior wall, we're gonna have a 1-inch expansion joint and then our new wall. So the fire couldn't go back and forth.
Asbestos gone.
Yes, we're doing abatement. So, and that number is part of the soft cost that the district is considering.
Is that just for the parts you're gonna tear down, or for the whole, that's not the whole building asbestos?
Just
The parts we're
Isn't
touching.
that the only, everything that's being torn down, isn't that the only places that asbestos?
I think the cafeteria has some that would have to be done as well. So it would,
Took out a bunch of
to my
Yes.
knowledge, you would get most of it out.
And that is gonna be step one. I mean, we can't start construction until abatement happens.
What kind of lighting will you put in it? What's the fixtures gonna be now? What's
So everything is based on the new code. We do LED fixtures for everything. So to meet energy code, you really need to go LED, and they last so much better. And really, the cost has come down. It's like your TV or something. Every year, it just decreases year by year, and now you can get a 2x4 lay-in LED light for cheaper than a regular fluorescent.
Okay, give me time to think. I got another question. Where did the coffee bar ideal come from?
Oh, well, that's gone.
Where, I don't know where it came from. Who put that in?
I'm not, maybe.
I'd like to know the answer to that.
I think it sounds great.
Who's guilty?
I just
I'm not
think you
doing
know.
We are hoping before we do have our bond election, not to change subject, but that we give tours to our townspeople to come and look and see what's gonna be different, what's gonna change.
Yes.
Maybe you could come.
Of course, yeah, of
And
course.
help.
So as we move forward with the design and especially start shifting gears more towards the bond planning process, we can definitely give a lot of the updates on the design, because that's the beauty of how you all are going about this process. A lot of times we don't have the luxury of having the design done ahead of time, so everyone can really see exactly what's happening. And as we have those community meetings and or any pack, we can take the tours and show this is what's here, here's the new, what it's gonna look like. So paint that picture.
Well, I took notes while you guys made suggestions, and so we'll debrief and talk about it here again. And so if you think of something else, let us know, because this is how we did it with the staff. We would look at it, make suggestions, come back, look at it again, and that's how you get the product that you want. And so, Mary, again, we appreciate you being so flexible and coming here to present to us. And,
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
the board will just have to make a decision as far as what they want to do, and then the community may have a decision to make too. So.
Great.
Ed, Eddie, thank you guys so much for coming as well.
I'd like to add something if it's okay.
Sure.
Mary and her team have done a great job of designing your school and updating, the old facilities and doing some refurbishments. And what you want is a modern school. You have to understand that at my age, we didn't have any air conditioning, we had fans, and those old steel casement windows, that was the classrooms that I attended. We've evolved. I don't think that we are not building any more sheet metal buildings. We did in the 70s and in the 80s, but I think that we've evolved. And when you go to the community, and you have a huge responsibility, y'all are stewards of the taxpayers' money. Somehow you have to impress upon them that, Mary, that they have designed a new modern facility. There's new code compliance, there's energy codes that have to be met in the roof, in the walls, and the light fixtures, security access. It's been 12, 13 years ago, one of our projects spent almost $1 million on security in public education. And I was thinking, my Lord, what have we got ourselves into? But it is changing in front of our eyes. You ask the right questions about the glass. Do I need bulletproof glass? Well, I don't know where the state legislature is going to come forward and have metal detecting devices, but that talk is out there before kids come into school. We're building schools, we're not putting lockers in most of the schools. That's individual preference, but a lot of school districts do not want something that the kids are going to be concealing, something in lockers. But again, those are all good questions you have to ask yourself. Do you really need it? Questions about the design. Do we really need to have the glass and the tall ceilings and open space? These are modern schools. They have not designed and put a bunch of frills in your school buildings. It's just a modern school that when we're building schools in 13 counties in the Central Texas area. I like the design. I think there's been some good changes. I like natural light. We never had any natural light. They let us go outside for recess when we were kids. But my point is that we've come a long way. It is a lot of money. It's going to cost more money 5 years from now. And I don't know if I'm answering anybody's questions, but they're just code and code compliance, wet pipe fire sprinkler systems in schools. We never had that. That impacts the cost as well. Got to have a fire lane. Can the fire truck get around a school building if there's an emergency? It's a very, very complicated process, and the community got to make a decision. Do you want a new, modern school building? Thank you for your time. I'm passionate about the construction industry. This is my 41st year, and I love it. I think it's still the greatest thing you can do every morning that you get up. But we want to give you what you want at the end of the day. If it needs to be scaled back, it's scaled back.
One last thing. Thank y'all for, we've been through an era here in this change of superintendent and all. We had to put the brakes on. And thank y'all for being patient with us. You probably should have dumped us. But thank you for working with us. You may have in the background been grumbling, but you're friendly tonight. That's okay, it's business. But thank y'all for bearing with us and working through this with us.
Did a good job.
Thank you. Yeah. We are very happy to be here, and we're happy to be a part of the team. So.
And this will likely be our high school for 4 or 5 decades.
Yeah.
So it's a big.
That was something I was going to say. We've got to remember, even if this thing costs $20 million, you want to build a facility that's going to last like 40 or 50 years, and you put that on it, it gets relatively cheap because the prices are, as they said, it's going to get more expensive every year. So if we're going to do this, we need to do it right.
Yes. 100%.
Well, we had the old one for parts of it for 64 years. If we can get 50 out of this one, that would be most excellent.
Won't matter to me.
Somebody
gone.
We have to think of the future.
I don't know, I'll be 110, I might make it. Chance?
Why would you want to?
And who knows, maybe at that point, this building may take on a whole different life. Things may shift around.
Maybe a rest home.
At least your taxes
You'll
will
still be
low.
getting used to it.
Are you running?
I remember everything, David.
You don't remember this, call me tomorrow. I'll refresh your memory.
Well, thank y'all for being here. We
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you.
your
Very
questions.
well
We know
done.
where to get you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
When we get back on the road.
Okay. And then this, no, that's not good. I think that's your clear, but this is everything.
It does, we can turn that camera. so-
Drive safe.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good job.
And if you think of something later,
We'll tell Barrett, Barrett will call you.
Barrett knows generation. Okay, thank you.
Get your
money.
Yeah.
Thank you, fellas.
Thank you.
Mr. Frazier, you're next.
Okay, my part tonight, a couple things here that are information items only. The first one has to do with the SHARS report, and it's page 78 of your board book. SHARS stands for School Health and Related Services, and this program is a federal program that makes funds available kind of through the Medicaid program to school districts who are providing health-related services to special ed students who are eligible for Medicaid or their families. So that's kind of where this comes from. We started it with the fiscal year 2013 and 2014. At that time, we were with the co-op. Our SPED department was at the co-op over in McGregor. And we started kind of small. When you do these reimbursements, it requires a good bit of documentation, so it takes a lot of the staff's time to document everything appropriately and to submit the documentation for reimbursement. We receive what's called interim reimbursements through the year, and we're currently getting close to $300,000 in interim payments. And then there is a major cost report that's completed at the end of the fiscal year, and that report comes up with more money, a lot more reporting, and then there's a settle-up payment that the district receives, and that can usually take 3 years from the fiscal year that we're working with. I've given you this overview on page 78 of the program, and I've also given you at the bottom of that page a history of the payments since we started with this Medicaid reimbursement program with the fiscal years 2013 and 2014. And you can see there, for instance, that 2013-14, our interim payments were $80,000. The final settlement was $85,000 for a total of $165,000. So it's kind of grown since that time. A few years ago, we, as the administration, felt that we were not maximizing the reimbursements like we could. And this also coincided with the move to withdraw from the special ed co-op in McGregor and start our own SPED department, where we had actually more control over the entire program. And the staff that work in this program work for GISD. And they're devoted to GISD, not to a co-op. It makes a big difference. And I think the big difference was that we got a tremendous amount of help and assistance from all of the staff in the SPED department to do this documentation. Because frankly, the reason it hadn't been done earlier was probably because of the pushback from staff that were involved in prior years. Didn't want to do all the work because it's a lot of work. And if they're not GISD people, they don't see a benefit to them. This benefit comes to the school district. These payments come right straight to our general fund, Fund 199. They're not even earmarked for anything in particular. And you don't want to specify that being SPED because then it would come into an issue of conflicting with the SPED program services, program income that we get from the state. So the good news is back when we pulled out of the co-op that same year, we switched the consulting firm from TASB. They were the ones that were helping us with the processing of these payments. And we engaged MSB. They're out of Austin, and they seem to be more aggressive. They're more expensive a little bit. They went from 6% to 8% commission. I guess that's their fee on their services. So we pay 8% to the company MSB as our consultant to do all this work for us. And we just finished the 17-18 fiscal year, and this is the first time now we are going to get a substantial sum from this program. We knew that someday it was going to kick in and really deliver for the school district a handsome reimbursement. And so this is it. A little over $550,000 is what MSB has estimated our final settlement will be on the 17-18 school year. And the other good news is on your chart, you see there I have the dates, final settlement dates, highlighted in green, because those dates have been sped up almost a year. And so now they're going to be processing the payments quicker. And so this 558 will actually fall in next fiscal year's budget, whereas initially we thought it was going to be the year after that. So this is going to benefit next year's budget. So with that, we look to be able to budget about $850,000 in the 2019-2020 fiscal year from these Medicaid reimbursements. So we want to congratulate the SPED staff for their hard work, and it takes a lot of work and specific ways of documenting it and time frames when the documentation has to be turned in. It's constantly reviewed. There's a lot of people have their hands in this. Anytime you got federal monies, there's lots of reviews, sometimes a lot of agencies, and this is no exception. So that's the good news, is that finally it's coming to fruition, and we're going to get, looks like maybe around $850,000 a year in the general fund from Medicaid reimbursements at the current level of the SPED services that we're providing. Any questions on the SHARS reimbursements?
You can use the funds any way you wish if it's going in the general fund. So
What's that? Speak up a little bit.
If it goes into the general budget,
Yes.
you can use it any way you need. It's not ear tag.
That's correct. Yeah.
Great.
That is correct. That's good news.
Yes. Very good news.
And this will come in next fiscal year. Yeah. Any other questions?
When Daryl found this out, I would describe him as giddy.
Pam's here tonight. Yeah, here's Pam. Thank Pam and her staff for all their hard work.
Yes.
And it takes a lot. And like I say, it really, until we brought it in-house, talking about the SPED department, and all the SPED people are our people, they all cooperated. And there was no balking, like, we're not going to do this. You know, yes, we're going to do this. That was their attitude. And so they've done what was needed to be done. And this is the final result right here. So thank you, Pam, and thanks to your staff for all your hard work. Next item. Y'all ready for the next item?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
All right, this has to do with the announcement of our plans for this summer, summer of 2019, for summer feeding. And here again, I have a chart and a description of information pertaining to the summer feeding program on page 80 of the workbook. There it is right there. We have the dates of service. They start right after school is out. So we start serving summer feeding on May 28th, and we'll end it on August the 16th. And there's only one day that we're not serving, and that's the 4th of July. All of these meals are free to any kiddo 18 and under, and it's an excellent program. It really is. Provides a lot of help for the community's children during those summer months. We are going again to use the elementary kitchen for our central processing, food processing and preparation. And it'll also be a major area for serving kids. One of the groups that provides almost half of our revenues in this program is the Boys and Girls Club. And they send their kids over to the elementary cafeteria to eat their breakfast and lunch. And so they almost represent 50% of our participation in this. I didn't realize that until just recently, and I don't think you probably did either, that the Boys and Girls Club was a very important source of helping these kids during those summer months. We'll also be serving in other campuses, depending on where they have summer school. They have camps going on. Betty Cooper at the elementary cafeteria, the manager there, she will be supervising the kitchen, and Tammy Brown will be the manager for the off-site places where we go. So she'll be in charge of that. We go to the pool. Anytime we see a congregation of kids, we're going to provide lunch or maybe breakfast and have that available to them. So they work really hard. The staff is the same staff that we have during the year. So they're pretty much everybody, I think there may be some that aren't going to participate, but everyone's pretty much has an opportunity to work in the summer months as well. The funding comes from the National School Lunch Program. It's administered through the Department of Agriculture, the Federal Department of Agriculture, as well as the State Department of Ag. And we're falling under the option that's called Summer Seamless Program. That's the name of the program that we'll be using. Except for the first year, we went a few years with a net loss on the project. I don't think the board ever intended to make a lot of money, but they certainly would have wanted to break even. And the board at that time made a decision to start the summer feeding program, even though it was not mandated by the state. That has changed. And I think it was a year after actually the board voted to do this that it actually became a mandate. And we don't have a choice. We have to provide this based on our numbers, eco numbers, and we can obtain a waiver. A waiver is not probably feasible for our school district, so we're into this for the long haul, guys. So we started it volunteer-wise back in, was that 14? And now we're into it for the long haul. Just mentioned here that participation changes, the Trinity Baptist Preschool, just to let you know. We served almost 800 meals for that group last year, and they're not going to have their summer school this year, so those are going to drop off. So we might have a little drop off in participation, I don't know, but I think we're going to intend to make it up in other ways. We're picking up the WIC program, which is Women, Infant, and Children program. We don't have any track record of what kind of participation that's going to be. It's not going to be as significant as a Trinity Baptist Preschool, but it'll help. And then we'll just have to be more aggressive in trying to find kids around who need a good lunch. And see, that's the mandate. So you see on the chart below, the thick black line is the 0. That's break even. And so the green line there on the bottom is the cost to the district for running a summer feeding program. So the first year we actually made a little profit, and in subsequent years we started losing a little bit more each year. And you see what happens when participation kicks in? Because in 17 and 18, look what happened to participation, doubled. And man, if we could do that in our cafeterias at school here during the year, you know, we would finally maybe have a chance of breaking even in our food service program that we're trying so hard to do. And a lot of it has to do with participation. You know, you get the volume, then it's gonna work for you. So the last 2 years, it's been a negative number. We've actually made a profit. It hasn't cost us anything. And our intent for 2019, again, and that tradition will be to operate at least at break even, and hopefully a little bit better than that. Gail is overall, Shelton is over the entire program, and she has a very fine crew, very well trained, and they do a wonderful job, and we appreciate them. Gail, you here tonight? Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Gail. Any questions about the summer feeding program?
Any questions?
Thank you for starting this a number of years ago. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Then we come to our action items.
Okay, so the first action item is consideration of an easement and an extension on some land that back in December of 2017, we entered into a purchase sale agreement with a company called CBD Realty. And basically, in a nutshell, we were trying to sell some land to them. It was 23,000 square feet for $150,000. And their intention was to build a Captain D's seafood on that location. And so we actually had a 5:30 special meeting out there to look at the land and how it's positioned. And the crux of the issue now is drainage and whether or not we grant them an easement to help them with the drainage issue. And so we're really, and I'll let you guys discuss this, having some second thoughts about that. And do you guys want to discuss your thoughts and opinions as far as where we're at?
Well, the easement is 30 feet.
Yes.
And they wanted us to give them that land.
Yes.
And we went and looked at it the other day and then had the special meeting, or 3 of us did, and then the special meeting today. Anybody?
After going over and looking at this land, so number one, we do not want to give them 30 feet for an easement. It's called letting them use it, giving them an easement. We no longer control it. It's basically we give away all of our rights to it. We can't do anything with it. They don't ever pay any taxes on it. So they came back tonight and kind of cut it back a little bit so we have a better route around the end of the baseball fields.
Softball.
Softball. Softball, baseball to me, but softball.
They shortened the depth
They
of what they
shortened
were asking.
the orange.
The red.
Area, which helped us there.
Yeah.
But here's the bottom line, if we sell them that little chunk of land, can you show the full picture again?
Or you want to?
No,
The actual
where-
picture.
Yeah, the photograph.
So
So
here's,
kind of where that star is and you see that little dirt road, that's basically what it'll take.
Well, more.
It's gonna take more than that, but
Right.
since there's not really a line there to tell the
Because the
audience
star,
about.
the star is not really representative.
No,
Because that's kind of what we were told initially is what we were selling, and that's not what we were selling at all.
so here's the bottom line, if we sell them that, let them have this, sell them the easement, whatever, we're gonna wind up with a little bit of land there that's useless.
Right there.
Where he's drawing the circle right now. The state will not let us have another entrance off the highway, there's not enough distance.
And
So,
and we would lose the existing.
and we'd lose the existing entrance, which would become theirs. So, my opinion is, don't give them an easement, don't even sell it to them, let this thing die. Run its course out, the city's gonna say, no, you can't have a permit because you can't control your water. Then we have a bigger piece of land to sell. We don't wind up with a little strip left to mow. And I think it's in the best interest of our school not to sell this for that price to back up. I was restrained, what do you call it, from voting on it last time. I didn't want to sell it. And I think that time's taking care of my wishes here. But I don't think it's a good move to sell right now.
I think after having gone over there and looked at it and seen the markers, Toby marked it off what they were wanting, it did make us reconsider. And we don't really get too thrilled about giving people property without having to pay for it, and I don't think they're interested in paying for it, although.
he's countered now with willing to pay for it.
Okay.
Even if they pay the same price per square foot for the easement, we're left with a piece of property that we can never do anything with.
That's what I'm saying.
It's, yeah.
Who knows, they may
We're
come back
boxed
and
out.
wanna buy it all and start over here. And then we'll change the price and we'll sell them the whole piece.
But also there's issues with septic lines and,
We have one that would run under the property.
right, if
That
we
we
had a
either have to
problem,
reroute or get access to be able to service.
and heaven forbid we do have a problem with it, because we would have to go in and tear up their property or what they built there and fix it. So, we don't want that. I don't think.
And that's something we may have to look at in the future. If they do decide they want to buy the entire block of land, there's still, the sewer lines are still there. So,
I think what I heard you guys propose was that if they wanted to come back, it would be more of not going as deep, but staying up here closer to the, and getting the whole thing, like
It's
a rectangle
like
here.
staying this side of where that low spot is, and or let them encompass that low spot.
Right.
Toby, what did you say was the cost per foot on that sewer?
Be about $9 to $10 a foot.
Okay, thanks. I knew you'd mentioned, I just couldn't recall. Thank you.
And that lot was how many feet deep? 100 and,
Yeah,
100, what was it?
240 by about 159 on the front side.
What was
Is it
the
on that
depth?
schematic?
About 249.
So it's 249 times $9 if we had to go in there and move that line over. Or bust up their cement in their parking lot and
That's all.
At our cost.
at our
Other
cost,
deal.
we don't wanna do that.
Yeah, we hadn't even thought of that, heard about that tonight.
This is a bad idea.
Well, this
Well, we
little,
need to
this little piece
reconsider.
of property is the southern tip of a lot of acreage that the school district owns. This is the bottom tip of it. And it goes all the way up to Highway 84, just east of the Methodist Church.
Yep.
And so this long stretch of land, which who knows what the school district might choose to do with it in the future, this is the only entrance to Highway 36, to that long strip of land. And so you're giving away your only entrance to your, the last remaining substantial piece of acreage that we do have. So I think that's another reason probably why you're having second thoughts.
Right.
Because
Well,
once you
also,
get them there, you're not gonna have an entrance
Right.
off of bypass 36.
and not to put words in Ms. Lee's mouth, but we were discussing earlier, our initial understanding was the piece of property we were selling was the wedge where that star sits up there. Was that your understanding as well? Okay. And when, yeah, we never saw a plat on it
It was
previously.
a little bit more over.
One more time.
And in case y'all may not understand this, and you may, but this easement that they're wanting is for a water retention pond. Everything now in the city limits is requiring a retention pond. The manager before, Mr. Perry, didn't push it. Now it is a major issue because of water runoff. All this water runs through this area to the golf course, and so this has to control it. If you build this parking lot, you can't create more runoff. What was the?
It can't be any more than it is without the parking lot.
Yeah, it has to control what the parking lot has created. So it's the city here that's saying, you gotta have this or you can't build. Does that make any sense to y'all?
So if we don't want to give it to them and we don't want to sell it to them, then they can't go any further with the building.
What is, do you know the date that the contract becomes?
I'll have to look.
Insolvent?
They were wanting an extension to extend it
Right.
to June 15th.
Right.
And so, without the easement, they can't do the detention like they need to with the existing plot that we have contracted with them to sell. So basically, they couldn't do it. They couldn't build.
I think I brought this water problem up originally when they agreed to sell this. I brought that question up and it was said that maybe they'll use the Burger King's pond. Well, you can't do that. The retention area would have to be twice as big and it just won't
And
work.
they'd have to raise the grade.
Also, yeah,
Gotta make your water run
the
back.
flow is the wrong direction.
But I was not a fan of selling.
Yeah,
So
so it's a bad deal.
So my recommendation tonight for you guys to vote on would be to not extend the contract and not to grant the easement.
I'll make that
Let
motion.
it die.
Is there a motion for that recommendation? David? Charles seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, next up, more property discussions. This time Hillside, the old Hillside nursing home that was gifted to us in 2016 as a tax write-off for that company. And so we have been using it as a storage area. And we have explored different ideas on what we might be able to do with it, but the layout of it is so odd. It is in poor enough condition to where we just cannot wrap our minds around sinking money into it to do something with it. And so, but as a location, it's a pretty good location. And so we wanted to ask your permission tonight to consider a resolution that would allow us to then advertise it in the paper a couple times, and then it would be up for bid. People could then bid on it, and the district is not obligated to accept any of the bids. If we don't get any bid we like, we just say, well, we're not going to sell it right now. If we find one we like, then we can go into a contract with those folks. And so it's just a few simple steps, but you got to follow those steps as far as resolution, advertise, bids, make a decision. And so even the real estate lawyer that advised us said it's not necessarily even the highest price. You know, if there's someone willing to put in a wastewater treatment plant there, you may say, no, I don't want to do that. And you go with the second highest price. And so we're in the driver's seat if you choose to do that as far as selling it.
If the price isn't high enough, are you able to negotiate because you're taking bids?
We can. We can. Once you enter into the person that has the highest bid, you can start, they call that negotiating back and forth.
So you have a recommendation?
So I have a recommendation that the board adopt the resolution to sell the old Hillside Nursing Home. It's 2.45 acres at 101 South 34th Street, and that resolution's been crafted by our real estate lawyer.
Is there, okay. Rob makes the motion. Is there a second? Cheyenne? Any more discussion or questions?
I know y'all hear me say I'm opposed to selling land. This is land to sell. It's not connected to us. It would be, if we did anything, it would be a satellite location. It's got huge expense with asbestos and everything to do with it. It's, my opinion, is the good thing to do to sell this for what it's worth. But you hear me say
Gets it back on the tax rolls, generate the revenue for the district.
Anybody else? Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
All right. My last one was a short update on the SRO agreement. The city came back to us and wanted to know if we could, in the wording of the contract, add 3 paragraphs not dealing with cost, but with the term. If we would be willing to make it for a 5-year, and I think Mr. Perry expressed that when he was here that night. The rationale behind it is they're afraid that if we enter into this agreement, we get cold feet and all of a sudden we say, wait a second, we don't want these 4 or 5 police officers. Then they're left holding the bag either to lay those officers off or try to scramble to pay their full salary, you know, as opposed to us paying the 37 weeks. And so this is those 3 paragraphs highlighted in yellow would give basically a 5-year term, 2019 to 2024. And so it's kind of making this a more of a long-term thing with the city as opposed to a year by year. Do y'all have any questions about it?
You went back and asked them for something.
They wanted more weeks than the actual school
So-
year was at one time.
That had to do with the pay, the money, the cost aspect. So at one point they were seeing if we would go past 37 weeks. And so this does not go past 37. This still, if you look right here, all of this still says salary for 37 weeks. But I did want to go ahead and add in, I agreed with Bill that the city, if they're gonna make the commitment, that if it's long-term, we want it to be long-term. You know, we don't wanna just say at the end of the first year, well, on second thought, let's don't do it. And they're, again, left holding the bag and 4 or 5 police officers have to lose their job. And so we don't want that to happen. So it doesn't have anything to do with cost, but just term of the contract.
Anybody, any other questions? So,
Is it possible, I don't know, it says in here somewhere, you can terminate it
Yeah.
120 days prior to.
120 days.
Okay, so it's a contract, but you can get out of it. Worst case scenario. I don't really, if the program works like we think it's gonna work, I don't see us ever stopping it.
Right.
I don't think the world is not gonna become.
It's not gonna become safer.
No, I don't think so.
True.
Not heading in that direction.
So again, my recommendation is the board approve the updated interlocal agreement with the city regarding the 4 additional police officers. And again, it just has to do with the term of the contract, not to do with the cost, just the term.
is there a motion for that recommendation? Linda, second, David? Any discussion?
Yes.
Question?
At the end of, do we have to wait to the end of 5 years to extend this contract, or can we, and to extend it to where we're stay on
Yeah, if we're
where we don't run out?
right. Yeah, if we're 2 or 3 years in and we want to go ahead and update it again, we can.
Yeah, if we see we like it, we don't want them to
Yeah,
won't
and as
stay
we
in it.
go, we'll figure, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see that it's successful.
Renew our commitment to the city.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, all those in favor? Raise your hand. Any opposed? Thank you, motion carries. And we are, Mr. Wood? ELAR, adoption materials.
K through 8 ELAR adoption. So came to you guys last month and gave you information only. So now I'm back here this month for approval. Got some notes down there. Talked about it last month about what we're looking at purchasing. The only thing we didn't have down there was the grades 7 and 8 ELAR. We made a decision on those things. So I guess before I make the recommendation, does anybody have any questions?
You want money every time you stand up
Well,
there.
you know what? That's the same thing they tell me every time I walk in these doors. I've stayed away for a while, so I'm pretty needy around here, so I apologize. It is expensive. We're using our IMA, Title I, Title II, and our SIG money, which is our comprehensive grant for the elementary school. So it's none of this is from the general fund, but this is our IMA funds that we get from the state.
And this is the biggest adoption there is,
This will
K
be-
through 8 English.
This will be the biggest we have, and so approximately estimating right now we're looking at about a $460,000 purchase, K through 8. And so,
And none of that is coming from local funds, or what percent?
None of that's coming
Zero.
from local.
That's
0%.
all.
So we
State.
right now we have about $360,000 to spend, and we'll get our new IMA allotment here probably in July, August sometime, and then there's about another 100,000 in Fountain Spinell guided reading materials that we would like to purchase.
And you'll have all that before school starts?
The only pieces we probably won't have before, because we may wait
Until that comes in.
until the money is there, is that guided reading piece, unless they agree to bill us later on.
Later.
So,
We've got a credit card, don't we?
yeah. So if you want, if you want to become
Not
rich,
that is
start you a book company, and you can make you lots of money. So put your name on it. So,
Shane's put a lot of time in with the teachers to make sure that this is what they want. To pick this out, and it's really quality stuff, and it'll last us for years to come.
yeah, this is we're looking at an 8 to 10 year adoption right here.
So you're not gonna come back and want more money for 8 to 10 years on this part?
Not exactly what he said.
We'll be redoing this again next
I
year
won't be
for
here.
9 through 12.
Oh, yeah.
Annual update.
Yeah, this is, there's a proclamation every year. So, and this year it's K through 8 LAR. So it's since the
Next year will be 9 through 12.
Next year will be 9 through 12.
Another 460,000.
Probably not. Probably nowhere close to that. Especially this K through 6 material we're purchasing is really expensive. It's just really expensive material.
As long as you can guarantee results from it, it's good.
So, if no further questions, I recommend the Board of Trustees approve the purchase of K through 8 LAR instructional materials for the 2019 proclamation.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Make
Linda?
the motion.
Second? Cheyenne? Any more discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, guys. I'll put the purchase recs in tomorrow.
You do that.
Hey,
I'll see you.
Now get you working again.
Exactly.
Daryl, we just pick up a check on the way.
Guess we should ask Darryl if he's okay with that.
I am a.
Mr. Frazier, cafeteria prices?
Okay. Okay, good evening again, board. These next two items have to do with our food service program. And the driver here is the fact that we have a food service management company, Sodexo, that we've engaged. And this all has to be approved by the Texas Department of Ag. And we have an end of April deadline to get to them a contract for next year with our food service management company. So that's kind of the driver. So we have to get this into them by the end of this month. So we're bringing it to you This is, we call it the third amendment to the 2016 contract with Sodexo. So that means that next year is year 4 of the 5-year contract, and then the year after that will be the last time that we can do an amendment on that contract, and we'll go back to putting out for bids. So this is year 4. It's called the third amendment. There's not much change, but the driver, of course, is the prices, meal prices. So we have to get our meal prices lined up. In order to prepare the budget, we have to submit a budget to the Department of Ag. And so the first item of business is to approve meal prices for next year. And on page 99, I give you a histogram of meal prices going all the way back to 2004, 2005. You'll see breakfast and lunch, you'll see the reduced student price, you'll see the full pay prices based on grade levels and adults. The green highlighted cells are years where there were increases at that category. So this current fiscal year, we've increased lunch a nickel from $2.45 to $2.50, $2.70 to $2.75, and the adult $3.45 to $3.50. So I'm proposing that we give this a breather for a year and let this rest and not have any increases whatsoever in our meal prices for next year. That's management's recommendation. The following charts, starting on page 100, I give this to you each year. And you have 17-18, which are the charts on the left, and 18-19, which is this fiscal year. That's on the right side of each page. So we have breakfast and lunch, and we have children and adult prices, and the gold bar lines are how we compare to surrounding districts. So breakfast-wise, we're kind of in the middle of the pack, but we're at the high end. So we need to let breakfast kind of catch up. And they will. We're not that much higher. So by freezing it, we'll allow the whole group to kind of go up and catch up with us. You know, we were kind of mandated by the feds to increase the prices anyway every year because they want to make sure that we charge them enough to pay for the program out of the paid students. And we're still considerably under what they would actually like for us to do, probably about 25 cents. But with the fact that our food service program has, and it's still operating at a deficit, and we subsidize, the general fund subsidizes the food service program somewhere around $100,000 a year. And last fiscal year, I think the audit showed us an 85,000, somewhere in that range, is what the general fund subsidized the food service fund. And the budget this year will probably be relatively the same, maybe a little worse. We're adding some expenditures in the food service department next year, like some new software that we're considering implementing at the point of sale. But we have, those budgeted losses have actually been, the actual amounts have been less than the budgeted amounts. So it looks like unless something really earth-shattering happens, we're stuck at around $100,000 subsidy for the cafeteria district-wide. And like we saw in those summer feeding program numbers, it's participation. So we constantly work on getting participation up. Participation this year has, I think it's like 0.7% higher than last year. So that's been good news. We took a little tick up this fiscal year, and so hopefully next year we'll see the same thing. As we increase in participation, we'll see a gradual reduction of our loss. So you can see these meal prices and how they compare to other prices in the in the area of the school districts. And so the first one here, action item, is to recommend to the school board that we freeze all of our meal prices for the 2019-2020 school year at this current year rates.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion for that recommendation? David, and second John. Any questions? Discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Frazier.
Okay, thank you all. And lastly, we want to have you approve the third amendment to the Sodexo contract, which starts on page 104. And I believe you've received the revised one, right, Marcy?
Yes, they've got a hard copy under their agenda of the revised one.
Because at the time of the deadline for getting the information to Marcy for the board book, Sodexo still had the contract in their legal department. And just a few hours actually after the deadline, it came from their legal. And so this revised one is a little shorter, because all we're doing here is adding any changes to that 2016 contract since the second amendment. So we took out some paragraphs that weren't necessary anymore. The fixed prices have gone up 2%. And their contract states that they can go up the CPI index. And so it's in line with how our contract reads. And pretty much all of the other assumptions remain the same. So we're asking that you approve the third amendment to the Sodexo contract for the fiscal year 2019-2020. And with your approval, we'll submit this contract to the Department of Ag for their approval.
Is there a motion for that recommendation? I'll make it. Second, Charles? Okay, all those in favor? Any discussion? Sorry. Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand. None opposed. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, we will go to executive session. So we're going to go down the hall. If you'd like to stay here, you're welcome. We'll be back later.